All right, Shalom, Shalom. I want to give all praise and honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kodash, as the double honors to the apostles and the bishop elders at Great Millstone for teaching his word in truth and sincerity and for ruling well. And salutations to my fellow Akim across the four corners of the globe, preaching and prophesying in the name of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. Hey, I'm the brother Gabar Yahweh from GMS Hawaii, coming to you with another quick lesson. And this lesson is on the hypocrisy of, the whore, which is America, Babylon the Great, also known as Babylon, or Babylon the Great, or the daughter of Babylon. Okay, and in other prophetic scriptures, when it's speaking about Babylon, it's always speaking about, not always, but mainly it's speaking about this Babylon that we're in today. Because this place, America, is a place of great confusion, and now these smaller nations and even other nations like Russia, they're calling out America for its hypocrisy. Okay, and I have two videos to support this subject matter. One from Africa and Ghana, which these are Israelites. If you didn't hear this man speaking with the so-called African accent, he's one of our people. This is the Israelite man. Our people come from West Africa as well as Europe, but when I say our people, I'm talking about the so-called Negro, West Indian, and Haitian. Now, this other video I have is from the president of Mexico, President AMLO, and he says this. He says, um, Mexico's President AMLO says that the United States cannot talk about human rights with Julian Assange detained, cartel violence with President Joe Biden bombing the Nord Stream pipeline, or democracy while arresting the leading presidential candidate Donald Trump. Which they're setting that up to cause a lot of mass confusion and a lot of mass uprisings in this country. And we're basically at the end of this thing, and these different nations, they're picking sides, they're choosing sides. Russia and its allies, Persia, which is Iran, Libya, Ethiopia, shit, and even China is all getting together to go to do a great battle with the whore, which is America and its allies. And ultimately, America's allies are going to hate the whore, and they're going to throw missiles on his place too. So I just wanted to kind of highlight, some of the subject matter in these videos, and then to go to some scriptures because it's a lot. And then go to some scriptures, talking about the Third World War, and show you in Salakia. So again, I wanted to kind of highlight that because America walks around and act like it's a upstanding country when it's totally hypocritical. So let me play this real quick. Hopefully you can hear it.
Aquí nosotros, los es como si aquí nosotros,
So this is subtitled. So it says, but they're not going to talk badly either.
los evaluáramos. A ver, derechos humanos. Oye, ¿por qué no liberas a Assange? Estás hablando de periodismo y de libertad. ¿Por qué tienes preso a Assange?
It says Sanchez, but he's speaking about Julian Assange being in prison, and then other things that's happening, cartel violence, which America, through its proxies, support those cartels with the drugs and the weapons, and then they'll arrest somebody just to make a public show, but in reality, it's America behind all of that cartel violence, fomenting it. And then you have, so I'm not going to play too much of this because the subtitle is not as bright as I thought it was. But what I will play is this right here, because they're both talking about human rights. This is a play. Come on, man. I'm not sure. Hold on, Salaki. Yeah, give me a second, brother. I'm trying to get this to play. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, everybody ready? Kamala Harris is entitled to her opinion, the same way you're entitled to your opinion, the same way I hold the opinion that she and the American government are a bunch of cowards. and that they have no right to talk about human rights because they're the biggest abusers of human rights. Child rights are equally human rights. And yesterday, 2 hours after that press conference with the president, a 28-year-old gun woman walked into an American school and killed 3 American children and killed 3 American teachers. It's the rights, one of the fundamental basic rights of any human being is the right to life. The American government, in which Kamala Harris is vice president, is failing to take decisive action on gun control. And so people who should not have access to weapons are having access to assault rifles and killing innocent children and teachers in America. And the vice president of that country wants to come and teach us human rights. I mean, the irony of it. She's a person of color. But for being vice president, what happened to George Floyd could easily have happened to her. Or any of the several people who have been killed in America by errant white policemen, which has led to the Black Lives Matter issue. If people have to demonstrate to let the American government know that Black Lives Matter, they need help from us. I've stated on record that myself and my colleagues are very willing to engage the American government and the U.S. Congress to help them shape laws that will clamp down on gun violence because they really have need for it. But it's the hypocrisy of the U.S. where they call homosexuality a human rights issue in Africa, but yet they are doing business with countries where homosexuality is frowned upon. Over $1 billion of military hardware is sold to Qatar almost on a yearly basis. In Qatar, homosexuality is punished by death.
Yeah, see, and then you notice in that also too, America, Babylon is sending its proxies out to these different nations, especially they're trying to get into Africa when they didn't pay any attention to Africa outside of destroying it like the rest of these European nations, including Russia, all right, and as well as China's not a European nation, but these countries, they're moving into this continent, and now they're trying to establish a foothold, but they're trying to play it off like they're helping these people, when in reality, they're just going to flip it back on them anyway. But these countries, now you've seen America America is trying to step in. America is trying to step in and basically get their foothold in it. But what are they doing when they go out? They're going out and spreading wickedness. The whole alphabet agenda, that's wickedness. That's why the scripture says this in Revelation, the book of Revelation 18. All right, Revelation 18. Revelation 18 and it says, verse 3, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Right, these different nations have drunken this different wine, which is their philosophies, their ways of governmenting, and even Ghana to a point, because they have a member of parliament or they have a parliamentary government there, you know. But the point of the matter is that these countries are fighting back, they're kicking back, and they're exposing the whore for what she truly is. Because what does America, me and the brother Kahan say this a lot, America's chief export is wickedness. All right. And they go into these different nations and their philosophies that they bring, they don't build nations up. They actually break them down from the inside. So that whole LGBT alphabet group thing, that's set up to destroy what? First, the family, the fabric of the family. Okay. Then the relationship between men and women. Then to being in a perverse spirit that's going to destroy that nation. Because once you accept the homosexuality, what else you going to accept? You're going to accept the way of government. You're going to accept their economics. You're going to accept their ways of life, man, and it's going to destroy you. Next thing you know, you're going to see a McDonald's in the middle of Ghana, and people just living, like beasts, man. In America, that's that wine. That's that wine or that fornication. Okay, let me see. I'm gonna see what this says in the NLT. It says, "For all nations have fallen because of the wine of her passionate immorality." And that LG, that ABCDEFG, that's immorality. It says because the wine. It says, "For all nations have fallen because of the wine of her passionate immorality. The kings of the world have committed adultery with her." Yep, they committed spiritual adultery with her. because of her desires, for extravagant luxuries. The merchants of the world have grown rich, right? Because these different nations that go into business with this America, what are they doing? They're providing services like China. Everybody's talking about China is, basically, they're the next superpower and how they're gonna establish a foothold on the earth. No, China is not gonna do that. You know why? Because China is a slave country. You know, their government sold out to the elite a long time ago, and they're basically a manufacturing hub for the earth as well as a testing ground for the NWO system. You know, for the beast system, just like Nigeria is going to be, Ghana is going to be, because even though you have certain members of these governments standing up and speaking out against some of her philosophies or wickedness, ultimately they're going to get with the program. Why? Because if you want to get any assistance from America, you're going to have to get with their program. You're going to have to you're going to have to drink that passionate immorality. You know, if you want to be a part of this, and these different nations like Russia and China, they're seeing a value in Africa, and they bring in infrastructure, they giving out money and loans to these different countries within Africa, and as well as call itself doing business with them. Now America wants to try to come in and do something. I think a few months ago, Joe Biden said he was doing something with South Africa, and they were going to get them people a whole bunch of either solar panels or some shit, some money for some solar panels to create some businesses. And the reason why they went to South Africa because there's Edomites down there, you know, and they're trying to find a way in. And so what they do, they send Kamala Harris, a so-called vice president, a puppet down there to push that fornication. And these countries ain't having it, especially like countries like Ghana, Uganda, they're not having it, man. It says government lacks commitment to the anti LGBT fight, right? Because they're against that. But he also said in the same breath, America's doing business with Qatar and LGBT is outlawed. Let's look at what's the punishment? Okay, for uh, in Qatar. What's the punishment for homosexuality in Qatar? It says lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people in Qatar face legal challenges not experienced by non-LGBT residents. Sexual acts of male homosexuality, a penalty for up to 7 years in prison, discrimination, no protection, recognition relationship, no recognition, illegal in Islamic Sharia law as applied. You know, so it's criminalized. And you got some of these other nations; they're doing the same thing. I think Uganda. I'm not sure if Ghana doing it, but I think they throw you into prison too. But again, what is that doing? That fornication is destroying nations, man. And these smaller nations, they're standing up. You got Mexico. Okay, it says first Brazil and Saudi riding with China. Now Mexico President ethers Joe Biden and the U.S. Why are they doing that? Because this is Habakkuk um, chapter 2, verse 16. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. Because America's glory is filled with shameful spewing. And that foreskin being uncovered, meaning her sins, they're being shown to the world and people getting to see it. Because for so long, these different nations were mesmerized by this whore. You got her riches. You can come over here and become a billionaire. You even got to come over here. You can just do business with the American government and other corporations, and you can become a billionaire basically overnight. Okay, but now these nations like they're calling these governments out for the wickedness that they're doing. And basically, that whole plan that sending Kamala Harris to Africa, that was a failure. You know, that shit was, well, as it's shown in the so-called media, it was basically a failure. You know, I think I saw another video. She was standing next to a president, I think of Nigeria, and he said he said everybody else. He said, I don't know what they're telling you in America, but we here in Africa, we don't got no problem with China. You know, And they don't. Why? Because China's doing business with them, you know? And they're trying to make that place, get up out the dirt. And the reason why that place is so oppressed, one is because Esau, Edom is oppressing the hell out of that continent. But also, two, they don't want Jake, especially the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, to have no place to go to for refuge and build and have it. Because that's what Jake would do. If so, let's say Africa was like Sweden or Switzerland or one of these other European countries, Luxembourg, that are very wealthy. America, let's say the whole continent of Ham was like that, right? Niggas would be going over there making a way for themselves, man. And Esau don't want that. So they oppress that continent for its natural resources. They oppress that continent for its people, which are also human resources to Esau, you know? And they set up these puppet leaders that systematically destroy their own countries for their own personal greed. Again, all nations have drunk the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth, these different leaders, have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies, man. And that's what's happening. But again, it's being exposed. And none of these nations are going to be the next nation to rule. Because even though you got the Mexican president talking about America, this dude's juiced in. And he's probably an Edomite, just like this guy is juiced in. People like, you need to keep this brother, protect this dude. Listen, man, if you in any portion of the government, you ain't right, man. Because you got to be a Satanist to be high up in there and do this thing, man. But this is fomenting that disillusioned spirit, you know. So this is Psalms chapter 2, verse 1. Psalms 2 and 1. It says, "Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against Yahweh, the Lord, Yahweh Bashal Shai, and against his anointed, saying, Let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us." So these nations, they're raging, they're in a tumult, they're all excited. They're imagining a new world order where, basically it's going to be the haves and the have-nots. And mainly the Edomites are going to be the haves, and the whole world is going to be in slavery. Okay, then they're going to have a proxy leaders and puppets set up to rule over the people. And everybody just going to be in a vassal slave state, to the super elite. But that's a vain thing. Talking about who's next and how you going to establish this. Like, Africa is not going to be established as a continent of people until after they serve 1,000 years of long slavery, and all the people that's among all our people that's amongst those people, they're going to be brought out. If they rebels, they're going to be put down. If they part of the elect, they're going to be saved. You know, but Africa's not about to be the next new burgeoning continent. Neither is Mexico. Neither is China. Neither is Saudi Arabia. Because now these different nations, they're moving away from the dollar. Let's see, countries that are moving away from the U.S. dollar. All right, you got this de-dollarization 4 days ago. More countries, more countries, more countries seek alternatives to the U.S. dollar. Understanding de-dollarization, the U.S. dollar has dominated global trade and capital flow for decades. However, many nations are looking for alternatives to the greenbacks to reduce their dependence on the U.S. Okay, and they got a timeline about how it was set up, and it's a fiat currency. Is not worth nothing. Okay, you had the Bretton Woods agreement, which said that the dollar would be the world currency. Okay, for trade. Okay, it says international trade is conducted using the U.S. dollar under the Bretton Woods Agreement, 1944. In 1971, President Nixon ceased the direct convertibility of the U.S. dollar to gold. So they took these different nations' gold. Well, really, the super elite did that shit, and it's just now money is worth nothing. European and Japanese exports became more competitive with the U.S. exports. There is a large supply of dollars around the world, making it difficult to back dollars with gold because they press that printing press. That's all they've been doing, stepping their gas on the printing press, but it's not enough natural resources to back that money. Okay, after years of hyperinflation in 1981, the U.S. dollar loses 2/3 of its purchasing power. This is 1981. In 2007, 2008, you had the global financial crisis. Investors seek U.S. dollars, expecting the currency to retain its value. Following the annexation of Crimea, Russia prioritizes de-dollarization in response to Western sanctions, and that's what that was about. A lot of these different nations that's doing business with Russia, they're being sanctioned. So they like, look, we're gonna move and do our own thing. We don't need your money. We'll trade in gold, we'll trade in the yuan, the Chinese yuan or the yuan, whatever you call that. You see? And these nations, that's these different nations bucking up, looking at America like America's small. This is Joel chapter 3, verse 9. Proclaim ye this amongst the Gentiles. Prepare war, wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Right. In these different nations, that's what they're doing. They're getting prepared for this third world war, which there is going to be a third world war. I don't care what President Zelensky said. There is going to be a third part to this world war, and it's going to be the war to end all wars. It's going to be a nuclear war, and Yahweh Shai is coming back to destroy his enemies, which are these different nations. All right. It says, but as this is approaching, these different nations are arming up, they're gearing up. It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. So whatever money that these or resources that these nations will pour in to their agriculture, because that's what you use plowshares for, they're using that to turn it into weapons, and they're pruning hooks into spears, different weapons, missiles. Okay, these different nations are getting their hands on nuclear technology, man. It says, let the weak say I'm strong. So these different nations, at one point, they were weak. These different nations that are going through the de-dollarization process, they were once weak, but now they're saying they're strong. They like, look, we linking up together. You got the BRICS nations coming together. What's that? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and as well as Saudi Arabia and other countries. It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause the mighty ones to come down, O Lord Yahweh. Let the heathen be awakened and come up to the valley of Yahweh Shaphat. That word Jehoshaphat is Yahweh Shaphat, which is Yahweh's judgment, and that's in the Middle East, and that's where the big theater is going to happen at. But the theater is going to be all around the world, America, these different other countries. But the real theater, hotbed, is going to be in that Middle East, where all the armies are going to come to. For there will I sit to judge the heathen round about. Put ye in a sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. And that's why that judgment is coming. All right. So going back to this article, it says Brazil and Argentina discuss the creation of a common currency. The UAE and India explore the use of rupees to trade non-oil commodities. Russia and Iran are working together to launch cryptocurrency backed by gold. And then this year, this 2023, which all these nations are moving to a digital currency. Why? Because the super elite want that, and ultimately, it's going to end up in a chip. Despite these movements, few expect to see the end of the dollar's global sovereign status anytime soon. Currently, central banks still hold about 60% of the foreign exchange reserves in dollars. Central banks buy gold. This is 2022. Central banks buy gold at the fastest pace since 1967 as countries diversify their reserves away from the dollar. The war in Ukraine and Western sanctions against Russia. As a result, Russia and China deepen cooperation between their financial systems, with ruble yuan trade increasing 80 times in 8 months, man. Okay, and you got but the dollar is still strong. So again, these nations, they're not moving that fast, but they're preparing to exit. And that's when the war going to happen. So a lot of nations are, they're preparing for war against this whore. So I looked this up. I was like, what is um, yeah, because World War III is coming up. I was speaking about this. I looked this up, about the draft, because there's going to be another war. But that's not what I want right now. I I looked this up too, because this is in the Bible. All right, Iran's deepening strategic alliance with Russia. Again, these different nations, they're moving away from the dollar, And they basically clicking up. You know, why are they clicking up? Because of the war that's coming. It says this is from February 27th, 2023. Since mid 2022, Iran has become Russia's top military backer. According to John Kirby, the National Secretary of Council, Iran's decision to aid Russia in the war in Ukraine reflected the expanding strategic alliance with Moscow since August. Iran has provided Russia with hundreds of drones, including the Sahad 136 suicide drone and the Mojar 6 reconnaissance and strike drone. It says in exchange, Russia has been offering Iran unprecedented defense cooperation, including on missiles, electronics, and air defense. It says the 1 year anniversary of the war, February 24th, the 1 year anniversary of the war, Tehran was also seeking to purchase Russian fighter jets. So why is Iran and Russia so closely knit, and why is their strategic alliance um, getting stronger? Why is it deepening? Because it's in the scriptures. This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38. Ezekiel 38 and 4. Well, actually, I'll start from the top. In the word of the Lord, this it says prophecy about Gog's future invasion of Israel. And we know that Gog is Russia. Let's look up an ancient map. I always get this wrong. Ancient map of Gog. An ancient map of Gog, right? Look at images. Where's Gog and Magog? So Gog and Magog, right? So you got Magog, which is modern day Russia. Togomar is in Turkey. Meshach and Tubal. All right. Salakia. I just want to find a better map. Yeah, right here. You got this Iran, which is Persia. You got Put, which is Libya. Kush, which is Egypt. Ethiopia, Salakia. You got Turkey, which is Meshach, and Rosh. This is Russia. And Kazakhstan, you got Magog, and this is where Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, Persia. But look, Magog, this is all Russia. This is Russia's area. Russia rules all of that. And these are the people that are going to fight. Then you got Iran, which is Persia. Okay, let's read this real quick. Okay, let me stop. This is Ezekiel. And they're going to invade Israel. That's why that major war going to be fought in the Middle East. It says, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog in the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Bashem Yahushua, behold, I'm against thee, O Gog, chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. And why is it the chief prince? Because it's higher than those countries. It's bigger than them. It's stronger than those other countries. Okay? And the Lord said he's his enemy. That's right. You know? It's anyway, it says, I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, which he gave him that strength, that power. Remember, the map of the USSR, right? Which used to be the Soviet Union, which is now Russia, right? Which is now Russia, right here. This used to be the USSR. And then you got Ukraine. All this was the part of Russia at one point. It was in its control. And then obviously when they fell apart, these different nations left, and they got independence of their own. So anyway, again, this is Russia. Gog and Magog, all of that. All right, let's keep on reading. Oh yeah, Ezekiel 38. It says, I will turn thee back and put hooks in thy jaw, right? Because at one time the USSR was strong, but then when it fell, it became weak. But now it's strong again through its different economic power, especially through its military might. You know what I mean? Ain't no other country messing with that country except America. You know what I'm saying? So it says, I will put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even great company of with bucklers and shields, and all handling swords. So it's going to get with these other nations, and they're going to go to war. I just want to see what this says in NLT. I will turn you around and put hooks in your jaws to lead you out with your whole army. And that's right, because once this thing go down in the Middle East, Russia going to have to bring its army. And your horses and chariots in full armor, and a great horde armed with shields and swords. That's right. It says Persia, which is Iran today, Ethiopia, which is Libya, Ethiopia and Libya, which is put with them all of them with shields and helmet, right? So you got again put, which is Libya right here, all right. And then you got Ethiopia, which in the ancient world was Cush. And then you got Persia, which today is Iran. You see it right there, you know. And Magog, Kazakhstan, Russia, which is Magog. All of this is Magogs, all right. And it says the Great Wall of China, aka the Wall of Magog, the land of Sinim, which these gooks, they're gonna get in line and fight with them too. They're gonna be on their side. They all gonna come down right here to the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, man. Because what's gonna happen, something's gonna happen between Iran and Israel. That's a hotbed right now for contention. And what's gonna happen is either they're gonna do something, but whoever does anything, the two powers that are backing these different countries is the state of Israel as well as Persia, Iran. America is backing the state of Israel, and Russia is backing Iran. So once that war start, these countries are going to invade that the state of Israel. All right, okay, Rosh, Russia, Meshach, Tubal, Moscow, Tobasek, former capital of Serbia. Okay, Persia, Iran, Cush, Ethiopia, Put, Libya, and Algeria. Gomer and Turkey is Turkey. Beth Togarmah, the stands, a former of Soviet Union. Yeah, they're gonna come together and they're gonna get busy, man. Okay, Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, with them, all of them with shields and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, be uh be thou prepared, prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, be thou a guard unto them. So Russia is a guard unto these different nations that we were just talking about. It says, get ready, be prepared, keep all the armies around you, mobilize, and take command of them. So these different militaries, they're going to these different nations and their militaries, they're going to mobilize, and who's going to be the commander of them? Russia. And then America's forces going to mobilize. They're going to be the head of their military. Well, yeah, NATO, these different NATO countries, but America is going to be there, and they're going to lock horns, man. And these are two Edomite nations, America and Russia. They're going to get busy, all right? And it's all judgment. It says, after verse 8, after many days, I want to see, after many days, thou shalt be visited. In the latter years, thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword, which is Israel, and is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. Thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land, thou and all thy bands and many people with thee. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought, and thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest and dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls, having neither bars nor gates, man. And so they're going to go into they're going to come into the state of Israel, and they come into America. It's going to be a world war, man. As it says in Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 45, therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord, he that hath taken against Babylon, and his purpose that he had purpose against the land of the Chaldeans. This is America. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. And the least of the flock, again, that's that state, that small state in the Middle East right here, state of Israel, man. It's the least of the flock. It's going to bring out America and the rest of them. And when it gets in this fight, America is going to be desolated, man. It's going to be made desolate. And the state of Israel is going to be wiped out. Okay? But the difference between the state of Israel and America is that that place is going to be rebuilt. America is never going to be rebuilt again. Okay? So this is what's going on. And it's all, it's got something to do with the hypocrisy of America as well as the World War III that's coming. It's coming. Whether you believe it or not, whether you know it or not, these different nations, they ain't clicking up for no reason. It was all prophesied in the Bible. Okay, the words of Yahweh Shai, because it's the Lord that is behind all of this. Everything that you see, Yahweh Shai is orchestrating it for his will and for his purpose. And his purpose is to destroy these nations. And he's going to allow these nations to destroy themselves. Like Egyptian going to rise up against Egyptian. These Edomites here in America. It's going to be civil unrest, civil war. All of that's going to happen. There's going to be so much happening at one point. Esau ain't going to even know what to do. It's going to be out of his control. Okay? So I just wanted to bring this out. I hope it was edifying. Again, America's hypocrisy is being shown to these different nations. And they're coming at this place, as well as the Third World War is being fomented at the same time, because these different nations are choosing sides. So with that, I say shalom and on to the next.